kind of a strange thing happened today, but all of the generals and the admirals were gathered together in a room by Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, and basically fat shamed, told that we're not going to do DEI anymore, uh, and kind of like the beating of the chest. We're the Department of War now, and we're going to be warriors. We're going to be tough. Okay, I think this is a ruse for something else. I don't think they actually gathered all of the generals and the admirals in the room to literally do war chants and to say, hey, the military is changing. We're now the Department of War. We got to be tough. We got to act tough. We got to look tough. I don't think that what this was about. I actually think that this is a cover for potentially striking Iran. I think this is why also Trump and Netanyahu and why Netanyahu has reluctantly agreed to a deal for Gaza, which we will get into a bit later in the show. But let's just play some of the clips from this kind of brouhaha, this sort of, we're the Department of War. We're tough. We're going to be tough. We need to be tough. This is one of the, we'll play a little bit of clip by clip. The whole thing was about 2 hours long. We're certainly not going to play that. But here's just some of the highlights of what essentially this much anticipated meeting was actually about.
And since waging war is so costly in blood and treasure, we owe our republic a military that will win any war we choose or any war that is thrust upon us. Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you.
Oh, Lord.
Another way to put it is peace through strength, brought to you by the warrior ethos. And we are restoring both.
Okay, warrior ethos. So we're going to restore this. F around and find out. That's what the FAFO is. My first instinct when watching this was, did Pete Hegseth really? I mean, this is kind of like lack for a better term, kind of like dick measuring contest a little bit, where he's like, I'm the head of the Department of War. I'm the Secretary of the Department of War. I now get the opportunity to call all the generals and they have to do what I say. I can call them all into a room and I can tell them, we are the Department of War. We're going to go get them. We're going to be strong. I mean, it just seemed like, it reminded me of a little kid wearing a Burger King hat, the Burger King crown, and being like, I'm the king for the day. You have to do what I say. You have to listen to me. I'm the king for the day. You have to listen to me. Kind of reminded me of that. Like, I'm the Department of War secretary. You have to listen to me, and I can gather you all in a room, and this is my chance finally in the military to just be powerful and be somebody important. It just kind of has that feeling. But he's saying ultimately, because this whole thing was kind of ridiculous. I mean, all of this is stuff that could have been sent out in a memo. I don't think this was really powerful or anything that made these generals or admirals feel like, yeah, we're the Department of War. We're back. America's back, baby. I don't feel like this speech was, not that I'm disagreeing with anything he said. I just don't think that this was necessarily motivating or necessary to call all the generals and the admirals in from all around the world in order to do this. That's why I think there's actually more to this, and this is just simply a ruse. But let's watch more of these interesting clips.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit.
I'm sorry. This is just really comical to me. Let's watch this one. What is this one about? I think this is about doing some hard PT.
But today, at my direction, every member of the Joint Force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year.
Sorry about the buzzing, by the way. That's not you. That's not me. That's actually the live stream feed that came from the Department of Defense. So that's what that buzzing is.
Every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our Joint Force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already, but we're codifying it. And we're not talking like hot yoga and stretching. Real
Why
hard
not?
PT, either as a unit or as an individual. At every level, from the Joint Chiefs to everyone in this room to the youngest private, leaders set the standard. And so many of you do this already. Active, guard, and reserve. This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. So you have to address the small stuff. This is on duty in the field and in the rear. If you want a beard, you can join special forces. If not, then shave. We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans. But unfortunately, we have had leaders who either refuse to call BS and enforce standards, or leaders who felt like they were not allowed to enforce standards.
I mean, okay, again, all this is all stuff that could have just been sent out in a memo. Like, look, everybody needs to be clean shaven. We have standards for the military now, and we just can't be. But what is the whole goal of all of this? What is the whole point of all of this? So if he's saying, look, no more beards, no more dudes in dresses, we're going to be tough. Everybody's got to do PT. We got to be in shape. Is the thinking now? I get it. Like, we should have a military that looks, ready and is ready. I'm not disagreeing with that. But is this going to attract more recruits or detract from recruits? Because one of the problems and the reason why the military had to lower its standards over the years is because they couldn't get the recruits. So they had to kind of say, well, okay, we're going to change the fitness requirement. Well, okay, we'll change the grooming standards, I guess. Like, they kind of had to slowly lower all of their standards in order to attract recruits. So I think this administration has it in their mind that if they roll it back and if they go back to, yeah, we're tough and we have clean cut hair and shaved faces and we're all really in shape, that is going to attract a new generation of recruits. Maybe, I mean, certainly it's a new generation of kids, right? So 20 years ago, those kids that were 20 years ago being recruited into the military are now in their 40s having the other kids that are now joining the military. So maybe this new generation does have a different attitude, and maybe they would prefer, to join a military if the military was really tough seeming. That's possible. I mean, it's an interesting strategy. We'll see if it works, because again, the whole point of why they lowered all their standards was to recruit people. And if they're thinking that these raising the standards back up is going to, I mean, I'm just curious if this will result in fewer recruits or more recruits. But let's continue on. Now he's going to talk about hazing, and he's like, hazing's back, baby.
It is our duty, consistent with our constitutional oath. Real toxic leadership is endangering subordinates with low standards. Real toxic leadership is promoting people based on immutable characteristics or quotas instead of based on merit. Real toxic leadership is promoting destructive ideologies that are an anathema to the Constitution and the laws of nature and nature's God, as Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence. The definition of toxic has been turned upside down, and we're correcting that. That's why today, at my direction, we're undertaking a full review of the department's definitions of so-called toxic leadership, bullying, and hazing, to empower leaders to enforce standards without fear of retribution or second guessing. Of course, you can't do like nasty bullying and hazing. We're talking about words like bullying and hazing and toxic. They've been weaponized and bastardized inside our formations, undercutting commanders and NCOs.
Okay. So he says, we don't like all this. And he's right. I mean, to a degree, he's totally right. Like, toxic leadership is allowing people to fail. And then, especially in the military, I mean, these are kids with their lives on the line. The military absolutely should be ensuring that they are ready, and they shouldn't be doing this DEI stuff or lowering, relaxing the standards just to, and then you throw a kid into literally the slaughterhouse. I mean, that's really not fair to anybody at all. But then he goes on to say, we're going to get rid of that toxic leadership that basically underprepares the military, which I totally agree with. They need to be totally prepared. You're throwing them into battle. But then he says, like toxic things, we're going to basically undo toxicity that is things that people think are toxic, like bullying. So bullying's no longer toxic and hazing's no longer toxic. And then he says, well, wait a minute, but not like really not like terrible bullying and terrible hazing, because then that would be toxic. So it's just kind of funny he says this. So basically, he says bullying's okay, hazing's okay. Like we're back with this. The military's back, baby. And now he's gonna fat shame them here. Oh no, sorry. This is let's talk about the fat shaming. This is when he says no more fat generals, which is
with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are.
Okay. I mean, it is kind of funny that he fat shamed them, but he's right. I mean, I don't think anything Pete Hegseth has said in this whole, brouhaha type pep rally is wrong. I just think that it's interesting that they decided to bring them all into a room in order to do this. And I just don't think that's actually the end game here. But in the end, I mean, were the generals and the admirals, did they feel pumped up? Did they feel like, all right, the War Department, we're back, baby, America's back? Did they feel this way? Well, let's watch.
Go forth and do good things, hard things. President Trump has your back, and so do I. And you'll hear from him shortly. Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
Yeah, baby.
Attention.
Oh, wait, nobody's clapping. Oh, wait, no, none of these generals, none of these admirals cheered, clapped, nothing. And so Trump recognizes this and he's like, oh, these people are really quiet. So here's Trump.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very, don't laugh, you're not allowed to do that. You know what, just have a good time.
Yeah, because they're all like, why the hell did you call us all in here? Like, we're literally in various parts of the world. You called us all in here to say, we're going to do some heavy PT and we're no longer going to wear dresses and we're going to shave our beards and we're all going to get in shape. I mean, is that really why you called us into this room? This is what they're all thinking.
And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, which they didn't want to applaud, which is why they didn't applaud. They just sat there. They looked at Pete Hegseth and thought, so really, we're literally watching the kid running around with his Burger King crown on. That's what we're watching.
If you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank. There goes your future. But you just feel nice and loose, okay? Because we're all on the same team. And I was told that, sir, you won't hear a murmur in the room. I said, we got to loosen these guys up a little bit. So you just have a good time.
I mean, he's just trying to cover for Pete Hegseth right there. He's just trying to make him not feel so bad that absolutely nobody cheered at the end of his speech, what he thought was like the most inspiring speech. The military's back, baby. So Trump also says that he's got their back.
Leaders, our commitment to every patriot who put on the uniform is to ensure that American military remains the most lethal and dominant on the planet, not merely for a few years, but for the decades and generations to come, for centuries. We must be so strong that no nation will dare challenge us, so powerful that no enemy will dare threaten us, and so capable that no adversary can even think about beating us.
Okay, fair enough. So he's saying, look, shape up or ship out, essentially. And then he goes on to say that, I just want to play this last clip from this big pep rally. He goes on to say that he wants to use American cities and American citizens as training ground for the military.
I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military, because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid governor, stupid. They threw him out of his family business. He was so stupid. I know the family. He becomes governor. He's got money, not money that he made. But he ran for governor, he won, and now he criticizes us all the time. And last week they had 11 people murdered, 44 people shot. The week before that they had 5 people murdered, 28 people shot. Every weekend they lose 5, 6. If they lose 5, they're considering it a great week. They shouldn't lose any. You shouldn't lose any. This is civilization. And he's always up there saying, we're in very good shape. We don't need the military. No, they need the military desperately. How about
Using an American city as a training ground for the military, not just the National Guard, but the actual military. Um, yeah, I think that might be against the U.S. Constitution. And I think that, when you're in the military, you swear an oath to the U.S. Constitution, not to right or left, not to Trump or Obama or whoever's next or President AOC, not to any of the, you swear an oath to the Constitution. And wanting to wage war against Americans in American cities, I mean, this is the talk of civil war. That is what this could potentially lead to. Not saying that these cities don't need help. Certainly they do. They need backup with law enforcement. Clearly, they need, there needs to be some reforms. There needs to be something that's done about the violence in our American cities. I just don't think that unleashing American military on Americans in American cities is exactly the right way to do it. But anyway, let's talk about what this whole thing might actually have truly been about. According to, now, they're all gathered together. They've gathered them to what seems like just is a pep rally. Now this pep rally is all over the news. So everyone's just talking about generals being fat shamed, pep rallies about no DEI. But is there something else going on here? The Russians seem to think so. Some well-informed sources indicate new strikes against Iran are under discussion. This is from Lavrov. He says that, let me just pull this up here. He says, according to the Russian foreign minister, all of this is coordinated. The military threat, as well as the measures aimed at economically suffocating Iran. September 27th is when this came out. So this was just a few days ago. Russian foreign minister Sergei Lavrov, citing well-informed sources, warned of the threat of new strikes against Iran. What you periodically write about, what political analysts mention, the threat of new strikes against Iran persists, and some well-informed sources report is even being discussed in practical terms. This is also quite telling, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told journalists during a press conference following his participation in a high-level week of 80th session of the UN General Assembly. According to the Russian Foreign Minister, all of this is coordinated, the military threat as well as the measures aimed at economically suffocating Iran. And now we see this. This is movement of some of our jets. Some of these are, and they're on their way to Qatar. So U.S. Air Force tankers that have arrived, they arrived in the UK yesterday, and they're now en route to the air base in Qatar, with several of them dragging fighter jets. So is this what the little war pep rally, Department of War pep rally, is this what it was actually about? Was it actually about gathering them all together? Now the world knows they're all gathered together, so they had to kind of put on this little pep rally. But now behind closed doors, they're talking about we're going to strike Iran. It's looking more and more like that. The only thing that makes me think they're not going to be doing that with this movement is, I mean, there is this movement, so that makes me think they are going to do this. But the only thing that makes me think they're not going to do it is, I mean, Pete Hegseth and Trump basically just insulted the U.S. military on a live stream for 2 hours. I mean, they basically said, look, we're not ready, we're fat, we're out of shape, we're slow, we're wearing beards, we're really, we want to become the military that everybody fears. We want to become a military that, no, everybody will, tremble, they'll quake in their boots when they hear us coming. But we're going to become this, not we are this. Because what they're basically saying is, you're not ready, you're all a bunch of fat slobs, get it together. So but then again, that would be the strategy, right? That would be the strategy to say, oh, you're all a bunch of fat slobs, none of you are even ready. Oh, but here we go, we're gonna fly a bunch of fighter jets to Qatar, and now the Russians are saying we've got credible threats. We've got credible sources saying that a strike on Iran could be happening, that this is all coordinated and that they're about to strike. So is that what this is really all about? Now, I thought maybe it was about war with Russia. That's what many of us had been thinking, because why would you gather all the generals and all the admirals together? We struck Iran before and they didn't gather everybody together. So why would you gather them all together now if it was just for Iran? So many of us thought maybe it was Russia. But perhaps what they're trying to figure out is, if we go into war with Iran at the behest of Israel, this is what they've always wanted. So maybe Trump was able to get a quasi deal out of Netanyahu for Gaza. because he says to him in the back room, look, we'll strike Iran. We'll go to war with Iran. Finally, this is what you've always wanted. We'll help you out. I don't think Trump would be that stupid. I really don't think he wants war. So I'd be very, very surprised if this were the case. But potentially, and maybe they're getting together to kind of play some war games and figure out, okay, if we strike Iran, and then what would Russia do? What will Russia do? And maybe that's why part of the reason why they didn't want to end the war in Ukraine. You don't want to free up Russia in order to strike Iran. And we all know that the real dog walker in the relationship is Netanyahu walking Trump. Trump's his dog. So Netanyahu wants Russia tied up, wouldn't want Russia to help Iran out with weapons and other resources, instead keep Russia occupied with Ukraine. So Trump has not been able to end that war. And that's just really great for Israel, isn't it? In their desire to strike Iran. And Trump then says, look, we can't continue supplying you weapons for Gaza and then go in and strike Iran. You got to take your pick. And maybe they said, all right, well, then our pick is Iran. We'd rather go after Iran. And the U.S. says, we agree. We'd like to go after Iran too, because we're all in this warmongering together. That is just it's unclear. It's hard to know what's really going on, and it's unclear how other countries will react, which is maybe why they need to get all the generals and the admirals into the room to say, how do you think everybody's going to react to this? And what can you do in the event of Russia coming to the rescue of Iran? Or what can you do? And what can you do? And now that we've got Syria out of the way, and now that we've got Hezbollah decapitated a bit, and the Houthis are a bit toned down, and Hamas is surrounded, so now's the best time to strike Iran. That makes sense. I'd be really surprised if Trump was this stupid to do that, considering he was the president of peace and no more endless wars. But then again, he is completely in the pocket of Israel, and this is what they've always wanted and what they've said they've always wanted. So the question is, are we headed to war with Iran? Is that what all of this is really about? Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.